Hutch, perhaps. Who's to say? We are trying out something new here on the interwebs, and
Can you see us? Can you hear us, folks?
maybe who's to say, Jake? Who's to say? Let's just get down to brass tacks. It took until about 8:45 to get my two children down to sleep. It is.
Did you say two?
There's two of them. Yeah, I'm dumb. I'm a dumb man. So I'm broken. I'm broken emotionally. I'm broken physically, and fiscally,
I'm
extremely broken.
I'm broken physically.
Yeah, I mean, as we all
Yeah.
are.
Well,
So
after I sprained my ankle snowboarding, my dog decided to run full speed into that ankle planted today. So that was nice.
that's impressive. That's very impressive. So here we are. We have a lot to catch up on, and I say that, Jake, but it seems as if everyone's catching up to us. If I'm being honest here, this
Yeah.
whole Deebo Samuel situation with him asking for a trade and such is just somewhat laughable to me. Like
Yeah.
reports coming out say, "Oh well, Debo's overweight." Like, yeah, we saw. Like, there's
Yeah. Do you remember when his coach Will Muschamp told Cal Shanahan openly that Deebo gets fat in the offseason? That is a direct quote that he gains weight in the offseason and he takes
correct.
time to work himself into shape. That's not me. That's Will Muschamp.
That's
And who
right.
said this publicly, and Cal Shanahan has also said this publicly.
It's
So
been
this
a
has been a problem his whole career.
it's been a constant struggle, right? And we can
Yeah,
we can be empathetic to that to a degree, right? There's every different type of body, and it certainly
we
isn't an
try not to
issue.
be dicks about it, but it's the reality.
It's a pretty tough reality too, and I think that we did a decent enough job, Jake, in the final weeks and months of the season, not openly calling it out. Now, we
Yeah,
definitely alluded to it. I don't think we're going to pretend as if we weren't. Uh, we were certainly talking about it, you and I. I
but
don't
it's
think
not
we made
helpful
right.
to
Like,
just yeah.
what are we going to do? Shame him into a diet? Like, certainly I'm no one to talk about something like that. So there was all this nonsense. I'll say this. I'm just going to lay this out there. It's not couth. I don't care. The dude was busting out of his tracksuit when they were closing up shop at the end of the season. I mean, he walked through the locker room wearing his 49ers gray sweatsuit. And I mean, when I say busting out of it, it was two sizes too small, Jake. And that has been what it had been like. I can't recall before the pneumonia, but the notion of
I think he came into camp in shape and looked solid. And I
the arrow
think
just kept going up from there, which I
and
get.
it was right, and it was which is rare because again, he's someone who usually works himself into shape, and I think Kim Kawakami reported it that they were unhappy with it at the end of the season,
Right.
and we don't know obviously how much the pneumonia had to deal with it, but like
Take a
it
couple
was
weeks off. Totally get it. Totally get it.
obvious to everybody involved, and you try not to like state the obvious when it's something like that, but like that was the reality, and that was part of like when you are not at the right playing weight, that's going to affect you as a dynamic receiver who's really a guy who performs with the ball in his hands. So like
Right.
it's not going to help.
So we have been talking about a Deebo trade forever. I don't want to bemoan it and do this sports media thing where we milk
Right.
one bit of news into a year of content, since we've already talked about this for a year. I mean, and I'm not even kidding. We've talked about this
Yeah.
for literally a year, Jake. The Bill Walsh School, a year too early as opposed to a year too late, and they're a year too late. So,
And
and
yeah.
they extended them, which you know more about that than I do. Can you explain if the extension fucked them or not?
So here's the reality. One, to go that's the exact point I was going to make is they overvalue their guys. They overvalue their guys big time, and they say, "All right, like if you want Brandon Ayuk, it's 2 firsts. If you want Deebo, it's a first." And teams are like, "Well, we'll give you 1 first for Ayuk, and
Yeah.
we'll throw you a second for Deebo." Deebo's value, I think, at best, like at best, is possibly a third. And that's with him costing to a trading team $1 million. That's what his cap hit would be for anybody acquiring him. The problem with that, and why I think they're just going to post June 1 him, which is what they set up. And on Over the Cap, those guys do a great job, and they broke it down. And then John Lynch was like, John Lynch was like, no, we're not in the business of getting rid of good players yet. That was the word he forgot to mention at his end of season press conference.
Also, was 2024 Deebo Samuel a good player?
No.
Okay, so then what's the problem?
Right.
He didn't lie. I don't think that would hold up in a court of law.
But by the way, when Deebo complained about touches, he had, I think, 8 fewer receiving touches, 5 fewer rushing touches, and every single number was down. It was roughly the same amount of touches. So just to get on the contract stuff real quick.
Yeah.
If they trade him, it's a $31 million dead cap hit today.
That's pre-June 1, and no one's trading for a Deebo Samuel post-June 1.
And that doesn't even include if they did it before March 22nd, they'd avoid a $15 million option bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So the tricky thing and what I was trying to figure out at the end of the year, and this is the reality, is you can designate him as a post-June 1st cut.
Right.
Avoid that option bonus, which is due 10 days after the new league year starts.
Oh, that's interesting. So it would negate the option bonus if you designate him?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Very confident.
That stands to reason.
How it plays out.
It's
right,
but it's still that's having funky. Your cake and eating it too.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous that's the way that works. But that's why I think. So the only other option really, like you can't trade him and eat that because you're not just like eating 31 dead right. cap. You're adding another 16 million additionally that you're paying. So like if you cut him, you're screwed.
Totally.
So I just can't fathom a world where they cut him.
If you cut him under normal circumstances.
Right.
But
so I think where
June 1, you're in okay shape.
I think where this is headed is you have to post June 1 him to basically avoid that $15 million option bonus, and you save like $5 million on the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you can deal with that. It's really easy. You get a little bit of cap space. It doesn't help you in free agency, whatever.
Yeah.
The interesting maneuver, if they're going to play hardball and they think they can get a deal done after June 1st, is to like demand he waive the option bonus. He doesn't.
Right.
So they pay him the $15 million option bonus, and then after June, they see him in camp. They say, all right, we're going to keep him around, see if somebody's desperate for him and wants to trade like a third or a player. Then I don't think that makes sense.
No. But
I do think they're a team that is stubborn enough that if they don't get receiving help or they think Deebo can help them, that's an option they think about keeping open. I don't think that makes sense. I'm just saying there's like a non-zero chance they could go that way.
I don't see the fiscal upside in cutting him at all. Now, if you're going to do it, the post-June 1 is the way to do it, right? Like, what does it matter? If you're cutting him, do whatever saves you the most amount of money. There's also then the playing hardball. And you're right. Like, that's something that sounds very 49ers-like. And that sounds something like, to me, I'll only speak for myself, a very stupid plan. That at some point somebody's going to be like, hey, let's go give them something for Deebo Samuel in the preseason. That is some galaxy brain nonsense. Just cut the guy and move on if you truly want him out of the house. But here's my thought. Maybe this lines up with the second point that you were making, but it isn't the same genesis. Like, you're saving, what, $5 million? Really? Because you're going to have to pay off 10 and you're going to pay him 15.
Plus the 15.
Plus the 15 of the bonus.
Yeah, but the reason I think to your point is that that's possible is because that 15 million is like down the line, right? Most of that money is after this year, so it's a question of like, is that
you
money?
Post June 1 after this year, you can do a lot of stuff, but I'm saying if you're only saving $5 million for this upcoming year, and easy for me to say, I don't have $5 million to gamble, but isn't it worth instead of the money that won't help you in any way, wouldn't it be worth having a player like Deebo Samuel just on the one-off chance that he comes in motivated and in shape and ready to prove something so he gets a new gig? Like, isn't that worth it, just having that guy? Even if you just use him as a punt returner, like, isn't that worth the $5 million just having Deebo Samuel around? Because again, you're just not saving enough money to justify getting rid of a player who at least has the theoretical upside of a Deebo Samuel.
But it's more than the $5 million. It's like the $15 million on top of it down the line, where they're going to have some bigger numbers coming in from Bosa and Purdy and Fred and Kittle and all these guys. And again, the cap keeps going up, so you can eat that. But I think the belief is probably we've seen the best of Deebo, and we can't bet on him coming in camp in shape. And at this point, I think from a front office perspective, they're probably saying this guy's more of a headache than anything, and we'd rather have some money that we can be flexible with, that we can go out and try and use at the deadline or pick somebody up late. I know it's money that's like, again, in June doesn't matter, but they love to roll over cap space.
Yeah.
And I know that like we can be critical of that at times, but with the extra $15 million for a player that's in clear decline, who doesn't want to be there, and this time it really seems like neither party is interested in hanging around.
I'm not so sure about that. Like it is in Kyle Shanahan's best interest for someone to take the toy away from him. Like, you can tell that I have a toddler. Yeah. Like, it is in Kyle Shanahan's best interest for someone to take Deebo Samuel away. And if you and I had the power, we would have done it 4 or 5 times this past season. He can't quit him. He's too emotionally attached to the concept of Deebo Samuel, which is clearly no longer there. And again, let's give Deebo, and I hate this saying, but people know what I mean. Let's give him his flowers. Let's give him the recognition for what he did. He was incredible, and I hate that it is leaving on these terms, but this is not his first go-around with extracurricular activities.
No. And his contract was a total whiff, in retrospect. It's not that they couldn't, like, they had to give him that contract at the time, and he's still been an incredibly valuable player, but as soon as they got McCaffrey,
right,
like, you saw his value go out the window. And
why did they get McCaffrey? Right, they got McCaffrey
superfluous, and teams caught up to what they were doing with Deebo.
That's right.
One thing I'm thinking of is I think it would be interesting if a team like the New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore coming in, wants a new spicy little offensive weapon who costs $1 million for a team that has no cap space.
Okay,
I'm just saying, in June when they look at their roster, they're getting their feet under them. They say, I don't know about this roster.
Can Deebo add quarterback to his list of positions that he plays?
They're just getting a bunch of guys who are
South Carolina quarterback Spencer Rattler throwing to man who was at college 10 years before him, Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, by the way, they're talking about like Derek Carr. Like they have to cut Derek Carr to even be able to function.
Jake, we will do a separate, we have a spin-off show just called The Saints Cap Room, and Jake and I just
It's Severance. It's in Severance, that dark black hallway.
Yeah, that's it. That's the Saints cap situation, and why rolling money over, I guess, is a good thing. So my stance on it is very clear. The second that report originally came out that Deebo wanted to be traded, which would have been the 4th. So obviously we're very timely here on the channel.
Maybe it was last weekend. I don't remember.
Who's to say?
Oh no, it was right. It was the Super Bowl. Yeah. So
it was the Super Bowl. Okay. So
what year is it?
It's a great question, my friend. As soon as that came out, it's like no one's trading for this guy. They'll wait for him to get cut. He'll have a little bidding war. He'll go to his team. We'll forget it ever happened. The best thing that man ever did was change his number for this past season so that we never have to remember Deebo Samuel other than number 19. And he's going to have some, this is blasphemous, but Jordan on the Wizards' ears, Johnny Unitas for the Chargers, name your guy, Joe Montana for the Chiefs, even though they had success, all of these things. He's going to have the Patrick Ewing on the Magic ears, or Sonics, take your choice. Hakeem Olajuwon on the Raptors. What are some other good options there? Derrick Rose for the Grizzlies.
That's a good
Allen
one.
Iverson playing for the Pistons.
It was weird how Derrick Rose, like he was like just turned into like a great career in the back half, like a totally different player, like didn't resemble at all what he was.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping for
Deebo,
for Lonzo Ball.
Lonzo Ball. I love that for you. One thing I do want to mention with Deebo is part of this lets Deebo talk to other teams and actually see what the market is, and go, okay, when I do get cut, I'm going to have a team in mind, or theoretically, we see if there's any value out there, if there's anyone who might be willing to trade any asset and would have interest in doing a contract extension. If I hit the open market, what does that look like? I think that's the value for them. And the 49ers are like, all right, go for it.
Yeah. They've done this before, by the way. Deebo has talked to a lot of other teams over his years.
This one feels different. He's not that valuable of an asset anymore, and I do think he'll have some suitors and people that.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I could see him going to the Rams. I could see Sean McVay getting rid of Kupp and saying, "All right, I'll pay $1 million for Deebo and run him to the ground."
I mean, there was a very harebrained idea that I had, which will never happen. Of just
Impossible.
why don't they just trade Kupp for Deebo? It shows that I've been spending way too much time with the NBA lately, where I'm like, the numbers add up and we can get within the luxury tax line and first apron shit. All you have to do is attach a Trace Jackson Davis and you have the number, you guys. But that would have been awesome. And listen, I'm not sure Cooper Kupp's getting traded either. Right. So let's be clear on that. Now,
but also the Rams might also just like are willing to like shut it down again, apparently.
Did
like,
they ever ramp it all the way back up?
They might trade Stafford. Like, that's really...
Well, they saw everything they needed to see from Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Like, you just have to.
Future the franchise. I mean, you got the Bill Belichick Godfather offer. Second round, take it or leave it. This guy's special, Kyle.
All he does is win games. Wouldn't that be the ultimate fuck you, though? Jimmy winning a Super Bowl with the Rams.
I actually think... I'm dead serious. I think that would break Kyle.
Oh, no. It would break all of us collectively.
Yeah.
Like, we have no stake in it, but like the level of coaching that would require, like, there's no coming back. Yeah, we were having conversations before the Super Bowl, and I think they were exceptionally fair, though they won't be happening again anytime soon, about Andy Reid and being the best coach ever, right? Well, clearly that didn't work out. That extra week of preparation that he usually dominates in didn't find them a tackle.
We haven't talked about the Super Bowl, by the way.
Well, that's because there wasn't that much to talk about. Listen, the Super Bowl was great because I had a 3-day-old baby, and apparently, my mother-in-law was the more difficult party to take care of. But in that, having a game that was just a complete and utter blowout within a quarter, you're like, this ain't good. Like, this is. I think it was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter, and even then, you're like, this is bad.
You know what I'm most upset about? They didn't give our boy Tershawn Wharton the half sack.
It's true. He had a good game.
He got a half sack.
He had a good half.
He got a half sack.
He was
great.
I'm pretty sure that he is a unrestricted free agent.
I love Tershawn Wharton, and he's playing the best football of his career.
That's going out on a high note.
Only Chiefs player on defense who cared.
Yes, well,
we should have known it was over when Chris Jones was like, my neck.
Yeah, when they're massaging him on the sidelines because he got jammed up on the brotherly shove. Yeah, having to explain to my wife why they were working on the neck. I'm like, because he jammed his head directly into a mass of humanity, and it jammed his neck. But it is. It was a brutal game to have to watch, and a great game if you had other responsibilities. So
that's right.
Big fan of that Super Bowl, even though I was totally wrong on the outcome.
Oh, I was way off.
Couldn't have been wrong.
I was way off.
Couldn't have been wronger. Jalen Hurts, but what a leader.
Oh yeah, great job all around. Nick Sirianni.
He has more Super Bowl wins than words said into his headset all year.
Still don't know what he does, but he does it well.
He's Big Dom and him just there for the vibes, baby.
I thought there's something with like Hurts and all those guys not being on the same page and arguing mid-season. But, sometimes it works. And honestly, the Chiefs needed like a bludgeoning to be like, oh, they are human. Like, you can.
It's easy to say now in retrospect. I mean, the way that I had justified it was that they were just an elite situational football team with a great defense.
Oh, yeah. You got to be in a situation, though.
Yeah, the situation there was they were getting curb stomped American History X style, and it was. In retrospect, now you go, well, they weren't that good. right? They were
They
just
haven't been that good for like 3 years.
and that was kind of where I was at. So like I don't have I have regrets because I hate getting stuff wrong. But like I don't have regrets. I think the methodology was sound. And I'm not someone out here being like, you play it 9 more times and they're gonna win it. Like, no, the Eagles kicked their ass. That was an outstanding performance. The Chiefs, I'll say this. The Chiefs game plan was pretty simple. It was the exact same one that Washington did, which is we're not gonna let Saquon Barkley beat us. And if Jalen Hurts kicks our ass, Jalen Hurts kicks our ass. And then Jalen Hurts went out there and kicked their ass. Nothing you can do. That's a better football team because Kansas City decided that running backs are gauche. That was a lame offensive performance.
Like Trey Smith got destroyed. Also, their left guard. I mean, I know it was their backup, but like their left tackle. Yeah. Moving Thuney to left tackle because they had to.
What happened to my man Trey Smith? He lost himself some money. I don't think he's a $20 million player now coming off of that game.
Nope. And it was probably a bad decision to start Frank Caliendo at left guard. Remember when he was like the peak of comedy for a while and he was just doing John Gruden impressions?
I don't remember him being the peak of comedy. I do remember him being ubiquitous. He figured out a very interesting niche, which was cable sports television comedian. And then Rob Riggle tried to take it over, but wasn't funny.
No. It's there's a very specific niche and he didn't have it.
Yeah. Wonder what Caliendo's doing right now. Probably
doing bits to himself in a mirror and in a shack somewhere.
He's at the improv. He's at the improv in Tampa, doing 3 shows this weekend.
In Tallahassee.
Yeah, Mobile. We talked Senior Bowl. We talked Shrine Bowl. We have the combine list. I don't really care who didn't make it. Right. That's one of my favorite fake outrages of the year. Like, I can't believe we didn't invite this. They invite 350 fucking people. Like, I'm not saying that everyone they invited is getting drafted and everyone they didn't invite isn't, but like they cast a pretty wide net. At a certain point, you have to have a cutoff and you can't just name random dudes. Like, listen, I think Johnny Walker, the Mizzou defensive end, of course I'm biased on this, is a good enough player. Does it matter if he goes to the combine? Probably not. He's getting drafted in the 6th round no matter what, baby, because someone's going to like the tape. And that's where that's at. That's
what are you going to do? It's we got the combine coming up in what, a week? I leave for Portugal. So I'm just going to
we are just content kings.
We are grinding though. Let me tell you folks, I am deep into random offensive linemen.
Okay, how about this, Jake? Before we're going to have to jump, right? Because at a certain point, we are rambling, and I'm going to try to curtail that in the future because I don't trust this new system that we're working with to not just completely shit out on me at any moment. So
that's right. We're trying a whole new system. We're trying to upgrade and.
Because transparency is the name of the game here, we used to use StreamYard. Everyone uses fucking StreamYard. Here's the thing with StreamYard. It used to cost like $200 a year, and you go like, oh, that's kind of shitty, but like whatever. And then they sent out an email, and they're like, what if we made it $500 a year? And I said, what about if you lick my balls? No fucking way I'm paying that much for a product that isn't that good. So
that's right.
We did what we said we were going to do. Now I'm using the royal we here because I don't want to loop you in on this nonsense. We originally were going to use OBS. Then we opened OBS and we said, we can't do this. We're not smart enough. We can't do it. So I have spent a week building out OBS to make it look this shitty. And I still don't know how half of this stuff works. And I'm not, I see the chat. Apparently people are seeing this. That's their loss.
I love it. I know. I've got the chat up on my phone. By the way, I love the John in the chat shouting out the Francesinha. By the way, Portuguese, I've like sort of attempted to learn it. Apparently, it's like Russian Spanish. I know that's like disrespectful because it is its own language, and I shouldn't compare it to other languages.
I fucking love that.
But as a point of reference, it's like instead of dos, it's Deutsch. Like it's
do dos.
And some things are the same. I'm not trying to insult the Portuguese people. I can't wait to go to Portugal. Seems lovely. Can't wait to try a lot of food.
I'm excited for you. You go to the cool places. I go to the north of Scotland repeatedly.
Yeah, the north of Scotland's lovely.
Yeah, that first time. um, what do you want me to say? St. Louis, Missouri is lovely this time of year. So give me, and I want this off the dome, buddy.
Yep.
Give me a draft crush. Who's someone you're just on? Who's someone you can't quit thinking about?
Okay.
Who's your guy right now? Just doesn't have to be any round,
Yeah.
doesn't have to be any position. Just who's your guy?
My guy right now.
Right now, just in this moment.
Obviously, Vernon Broughton was my first guy.
You love a Vernon
For those
Broughton.
of you, go back and watch.
You can have more than one guy. I just want your guy at the moment.
My guy right now, Trey Amos.
Nice.
Cornerback. Folks, so I know there's like a lot of guys at the top of the draft. There's Travis Hunter's like the clear number 1, and then Will Johnson's like probably the clear number 2.
Yeah.
Number 3, Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. A lot of people mentioned there's Jahdae Barron out of Texas, Siobhan Ravel out of East Carolina. There's some other guys you can mix in there. Some people might throw in
Hairston out of Kentucky.
Hairston.
That's my guy.
Right.
I like that.
Trey Amos to me is CB3 right now. What I see from him, I'm incredibly impressed. He is a perfect cover 3 corner, and it shows that he went to Alabama because, man, like he's got a perfect understanding of like where he's supposed to be on every single play and where his help is supposed to be. Like you see a lot of corners that are just like watching their man, and occasionally they'll look for the crosser when they're playing cover 3, but this guy knows exactly where his zone ends and where his safety is supposed to pick it up. He knows where his help is. He knows how to play the sideline to his advantage. I'd say his downside is he's a tendency to get a little flat-footed on, longer route concepts.
Yeah.
But he is so smooth. He really utilizes the sideline. He watches receivers' eyes to track the ball. He sets himself up to be on the right side of the receiver based on the route concept. He's long enough. I thought he was small at first, but he's more than long enough. He's big enough, willing to get involved in the
people
run
like
game.
him.
I like him a lot, and he's quick, dude. He's got long speed. He's got short area quickness. I think he's CB3 in this draft for me right now.
So a lot of people in the chat right now going with Membu. You and I both love Membu. I are both in agreement that this is separate from the initial conversation, but we had it out this afternoon. Like, Walter Nolan feels right at that spot. I think that my stance on Walter Nolan has been whatever you think he's worth, you're going to have to cut it in half by the time the combine comes around because he's going to shoot up boards. So he feels like he makes sense at 11. Maybe that's a bit rich, but he's in that 10 to 20 range. By
the way, the draft boards are all terrible right now.
Awful.
Total mess.
Awful. And you talk to anybody, people that I've talked to are like, do not go off of that. Membu at 11 just feels right. It feels appropriate. It's both a now and a future play. It's a safe play, which is a shocking statement for a guy who there was some question on if he was going to come out in the draft or not. And he's like, I guess I'm going to go. Good advice for whoever got into Membu's ear and said, please go into the draft. It made him tens of millions of dollars. But Membu at 11 makes all the sense in the world. And I'm thinking that it's going to be very difficult for us in the coming 2 months to shake that notion of they should just take Membu. Let me give you a guy, though. Told you this earlier today. This is going to warm the cockles of your New Jersey heart. I can't get over Holland Pierce, the tackle. I can't get over him. He's hilarious to watch. I just want to be clear about this.
Thank you.
He wears a full neck roll. He's 6'9" and 350 pounds. He looks like he can't move. Right? He looks
to
like
be clear,
his spine
he looks
has been
in pain.
fused. Yes. Every snap, and he's got the hands on his knees to start, right? He's not in a 3-point stance. He can't get down that low. But it's just that's what it sounds like every time. Just think about how stiff you
can
are.
hear every bone crackling in his body.
Exactly. You just don't want a microphone on him. It would sound like an ASMR video. Just cracks and pops, which I can relate to at 6'9" and 320 pounds. So there are plenty of exceptional tackles in this draft. Membu is my guy. You and I aren't really big on Banks. I think Will Campbell, we can all agree, is very polished, very effective.
He's really polished. I get more excited about Membu.
Yeah.
Campbell, I watched him and I was like, and then he grew on me. I was like, yeah, he's
there. He's there.
Yeah.
But he's a strict tackle. The cool part about Membu is you can say, oh, you can play him at guard. I really like the kid out of West Virginia. He seems more like a second round guy to me, but I think he's the real deal. I know he had a bad Senior Bowl, as you were saying. So let me tell you about Holland Pierce. Holland Pierce doesn't look like he's out there on his own volition. This is a deep sicko cut, but if you've ever seen the Christmas Carol sketch from I Think You Should Leave, he looks like.
Can you please pull up that?
I would
don't know
love
if we
to,
have the
but
capacity.
OBS. I mean, I can try, and if it shits out,
I'll just pull up the photo on my phone and show it to our audience.
Hold on, no. We're gonna try. Hold on.
I feel like people need a frame of reference because it really does feel like Pierce at some point in his career is just going to be wearing like the double full arm braces, double knee braces.
Oh, he's wearing it now.
Every limb is going to be braced up.
Okay, hold on. Here we go.
Let's see.
I have to. This is now. You are.
I'll tell you if it works. Okay, well, let's. Are you folks enjoying this? This is us live trying to figure out how to share images. I can't see it. It's just me. It's just me in a corner. All right. You keep looking. I'll keep the audience waiting. Oh, there we go.
Going back to heads.
They got it. The audience got it.
They got it. Okay, so that's what he looks like,
right?
When he plays. Highly recommend this. We will get that sorted out. Trust me, it's like a 5-hour process to get every one of these things done because I'm bad at this. But that's what he looks like. He can actually really move, though. He is like
it's scary.
He is. And he is huge. And when he gets his hands on you, you disappear. You just go away. And this is a day 3 level player. He was a walk-on at Rutgers. He was weighing like 500 pounds, barely an exaggeration. I just watched a great Big Ten Network video on him. Seems like the sweetest dude. And is out there just mauling guys. And he comes in. Yeah. The thing with Rutgers, we're big on programs. Well, at least I'm big on programs. Like I need to know what they're teaching. Like I'm not drafting dudes out of USC because I don't trust anything that they've taught anybody.
I can tell you what Rutgers is teaching.
Yeah.
This goes back to me. Just to be clear, when Rutgers had like Ray Rice and they were actually like not going to compete for a national championship, but they were like they were a
top 10 program. ESPN. That was a big deal. Piscataway on a Friday night, baby.
I remember I had like a shield and a sword, a wooden shield and sword from medieval times.
Nice.
And I had I don't know if I had a head thing, but I definitely had a Rutgers sweatshirt. And I remember sitting in my house with a shield and a sword, just watching Ray Rice and being like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Let's go Rutgers.
2006 Rutgers?
Yeah.
Who was the quarterback on 2006?
That feels spot on.
Yeah,
they had Ray Rice and one other. Oh, they had Mohamed Sanu.
They did. Mike Teal was the quarterback.
Maybe Mohamed Sanu didn't overlap, but I thought he did.
They had Jeremy Ito as their kicker.
Great. So real quick, so to get in the Rutgers program, like last year, my guy, and I mentioned it, was Isaiah Pacheco. 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
You loved him.
Was Isaiah Pacheco, because I was like, this guy is so angry the way he runs. And if you're going to play for Rutgers, you're like, listen, we're not recruiting 5 stars.
Nope.
We might get lucky and get a 4-star now that we're in the Big Ten, but probably not. What we're going to get are 3 stars and like the angriest 2 stars you've ever met in your life.
That's right.
Because they've been looked down on by other programs, and we're just going to be gritty. We're going to suck, but we're going to be gritty, and we're going to be really annoying to play against. And I think that's been their identity.
Schiano is a great college football coach. As for the NFL level, didn't really work out, mainly because of a antibiotic-resistant bacterial infection. But that's neither here nor there. Rutgers, he has a hell of a program. They have an identity, and they produce quality NFL players, right? Even if they're not high end, because they're not that crazy elite athlete, like they're giving you dudes who know their responsibilities, who play in a pro-style offense and a pro-style defense, guys who you can trust to make the transition easily. You're not teaching them. Like some of these...
Your boy Longerbeam.
Love them. So like I'm in on Rutgers in general, and I'm just really in on my man Holland Pierce because he's huge. He moves like crazy. He's hilarious to watch.
We should really watch Holland Pierce if you haven't, because I don't
want to get demonetized immediately.
Nah, we'll load it up.
Listen, it will hardly be the last time I mention Holland Pierce. But Jake's like, you and I both watched him, and we go like, first off, incredible. Just from a comedic
I was like,
standpoint.
this guy looks like he's in so much pain, and I'm not saying he's playing poorly, because he's not, but it looks painful, and I'm not saying this to like make fun of him. I genuinely
every snap, it looks like he has to go. Oh, here we go.
And he's a big dude. I get it.
He's huge. He's huge, but he's absolutely engulfing everybody, and he can get out and run. It's a special athlete for a day 3 guy. And the beauty of this, as it pertains to the 49ers, is simple. You don't need the tackle right now. And I don't think you really want to put him at guard, even though, who was the great guard for the Eagles this year? Former tackle, played with Becton.
Yeah, he's right. He's like that size, and
he's that converted.
Big. But
I like Becton.
And the Eagles are a different identity in how they run things.
100%. So you don't need him, but like you get Holland Pierce in there for a year at the NFL level. I'm not talking about the body. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm just saying you can refine. You can work with them. You get a year, and within half a year, you're feeling okay about if he's got to fill in. And within a full year, you're feeling really good about it. Like that's the perfect day 3 pick, because with a year of seasoning, you can have your future left or right tackle at the NFL level. And he reminds me a lot of Jason Peters. And it's not the same size, but just in the just gets it done, man. He just gets it done. And you never, you think about Jason Peters at the peak of his powers, and you were like, never had the biggest, fastest hand, longest arms, anything like that. Just got the job done. He was just a really good offensive lineman. And that's what, when you watch these Rutgers tapes, you're like, this guy's really good. He's not flashy, and the only reason you notice him is because, again, you can hear the yells of agony through the screen on the All-22.
That's right.
But he's my guy. Yeah. He's my guy. We got a million more of these. We got a million more.
We do. We're grinding. I do want to circle back real quick on Membu.
Yeah.
Just because we mentioned him at 11, and there's like a hierarchy at the top, right? And so, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, they're going to be gone, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, like guys in your range, if Will Campbell's there, sure, you can take Will Campbell.
Yeah.
He's a great tackle.
Absolutely.
You probably don't want him playing guard, which means he's not a guy that's, like, I guess you start him for McKivitz, but McKivitz was actually fine last year.
Can you move McKivitz inside? I mean, is that rude? Perhaps. Who's to say?
Maybe. And I'm not ruling that out. I'm just saying sure.
Yeah.
Like but realistically, there's a lot of teams that love tackles, and he might go before then. I think Mason Graham's probably gone, but Mason Graham is a guy that you can, like, if he's there, totally makes sense.
Can we take 30 seconds to talk about Mason Graham?
Absolutely.
We've talked D tackles a little bit, and it does feel like there is just sort of this perfunctory, like, oh yes, Mason Graham, who's of course the best.
Right.
I don't disagree with that sentiment. He is clearly the best defensive tackle in this class. I'm not sure I see top 10. I at that position, with the depth of that position this year, I'm not sure I see top 10.
And he's not like he's not going to measure crazy. Like, I think he's going to test really well.
His tape's
but he's
incredible.
Not a massive guy.
The strangeness both works for him and against him.
Yeah.
He's a strange player. He looks like he's getting under every block,
Yeah.
And he's got incredible hands, right? Powerful, all these things. He has so many things going for him. When you watch the tape, you go, oh, he might be perfect. And I think Jim Harbaugh even called him a perfect football player. And then a lot of times you're like, he doesn't really get that deep into the backfield that often, which when you're talking about somebody who's a top 10, I want that Jadeveon Clowney level ass whooping, right? I get that they're playing high levels of competition, not the SEC, but high levels of competition. Like, I want that extreme form of man versus boy. And he seems just really refined and polished. And, like, he's going to be a good pro. Like, that's not the question. But I'm just, again, I just don't know if I see top 10 in him, because it doesn't feel like he has that sort of Chris Jones, Jalen Carter, Aaron Donald game-breaking ability. It just seems like he's a really, really, really good football player, but not a game breaker. And I think there are other really, really good defensive tackles in this class that certainly aren't going top 10.
I also think the way Michigan ran its defense, he's not getting he's lining up as like a 3-4 defensive end sometimes.
Yeah.
He's looping a lot. He's doing a lot of different things, and he's also getting a lot of attention.
That's the Aaron Donald model. That's what they did with them. Yeah.
I do think he has game-breaking potential, but I don't disagree with your sentiment at all. Like, I'm not looking at him and saying, like, oh, my God, this is, like, the greatest defensive tackle prospect I've ever seen. But I do see a guy who's, like, got incredible contact balance, who's going to win the leverage battle almost every single time, who can disengage from blocks, who has that, like, wrestling background where he's, like, he's got really strong hands.
You know who he reminds me a lot of? And I hate to do the white guy thing, but, like, Harrison Phillips, when he played at Stanford, was just an absolute beast. And it looked a lot like when you watch Mason Graham. Harrison Phillips was pick 96, and Mason Graham is going to be pick 6. Like, I appreciate that the value of defensive tackles there, and I appreciate that Mason Graham is far more refined than Harrison Phillips was. Like, I get to only look back on the good stuff with Harrison Phillips, and I've now forgotten, appropriately for this moment, all of the bad stuff that made him go in the third round. But, like, Harrison Phillips, game wrecker, absolute game wrecker. You know who else was a total fucking game wrecker in college? Another Stanford guy, Solomon Thomas. And there's just these certain things where I want the physical characteristics of absolute domination, man versus boy. And just to this point, and we're going to keep going, and every day, a little bit more. But to this point, I just don't know if I've seen it from Graham. And all that said, if he's there at 11, which I'm getting the sense he very well could be, you just take him. You don't think twice.
It's a weird draft. It's not like the prime at the top is Hunter and Carter, and then maybe Tyler Warren, right? Like,
yeah, I can make that argument. Yeah,
you could make that argument. Like, I think Malachi Starks this season probably fell off of that list, but he's like almost there. But outside of that, like the quarterbacks, like when I look at 11, and this goes back to Membu, right? So you're going to have Carter and Hunter are going to be gone, right? You're probably both the quarterbacks are going to be gone, right? So then you're talking like Campbell, Graham, maybe somebody takes McMillan. Maybe I don't think Luther Burden's going to go that high, but who knows? Teams are really weird about receivers and what they like.
We'll know better in the next 2 weeks about that.
And then there's like Will Johnson, who's
totally get it. No, I like Will Johnson. I think he's really good.
He's my second cornerback there. I think he could go ahead. But like you're talking about like a group right now where it's like Mykel Williams, who is not a game wrecker, but has so much raw physical talent, and he gets a lot of help too at Georgia in terms of the way offensive lines prepare for him. Like I would totally be okay with that.
Did he see a single double team all year?
Right, but he's not like a guy who's like Mike Green is like a guy who's like undersized, weird size, but like you see immediately like
explosion,
right? Williams is a little more inconsistent.
It says something about it, and listen, this is why I'm hesitant to go all in on the I don't know about it, because explosion is easy. Explosion is visceral. Right. Explosion's that thing where you just go like, oh yeah, anyone can see explosion. I do like seeing explosion though. Like I like having that there, and then with the technique on top of it, I like having both of those things. And to answer the folks in the chat, I don't think Genty's going in the first round, and we'll talk about that on a later show.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
I don't think he's going in the first round.
I disagree. I think Genty's going to go in the first round. I think the fact that he's being mocked at like pick 5 is hilarious.
I mean, Raiders might do it, but
I think he's going round 1.
Who is he constantly?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire went round 1.
Yeah, and you'd think that someone would have learned by now. You know? Like,
I mean, but Saquon just won a Super Bowl.
On the wrong team.
I know.
Like,
I know. I'm just saying.
And you know what? Saquon Barkley is a great counter argument for why you just take it, because that guy is fucking awesome. And if you said he got taken second, you go, who got taken first? But it is, first off, Ashton Genty is not Saquon Barkley. He's not. And I highly recommend y'all go and watch Ashton Genty in the college football playoff against Penn State, and then come back and tell me that he was even the best running back on the field in that game. I can't do it. Singletary was a better running back in that game. So why would I take this guy just hypothetically at 11?
I think he's going round 1. But the point is, like, I don't think 11 he should even be in consideration. And like, it goes back to like, listen, like, you want to talk about corner. There's a bunch of good corners in this draft. I think you can find corners fairly deep. Corner's going to be there. There's a, like, you know, Michael and some other guys are better at the top, but there's like some interesting guys in round 2 and beyond. There's some really interesting edge prospects that you don't have to go to in round 1.
Right.
Defensive tackle has a lot of options.
Yeah.
I think when you look at offensive tackle, like the premium, you're talking about Membu, you're talking about Banks, you're talking about Will Campbell and Josh Simmons. And
yes, I agree on Simmons.
And so that's like the group. I haven't watched all those guys. I've yet to like get around on Simmons, but like that's the group.
I love Simmons. I think he's awesome.
Conerly, I did not like what I saw at the Senior Bowl. Like I think he's going to be a decent pro, but like I have a lot of concern there.
There's some love on Cameron Williams, which I get.
Right.
Essery from Minnesota's round 1, and then the guy that I'm really into right now is Wyatt Millum out of West Virginia, who I think is awesome.
But there's a group of like 4 really to me. I think, and then maybe later in round 1. But where the 49ers are at 11, you look at like guys that you can actually bet on in terms of that premium athleticism where it's worth a first round pick. And to me, I don't really buy it with Kelvin Banks. I see it.
He's a plotter.
I see it clearly with Membu, and Membu's a guy that, again, if you're the 49ers and you're taking a tackle, you got to be multifaceted. And I think Membu's a guy that like you can clearly play him at guard, and then you can move him to tackle, and he can learn behind Trent Williams. And I just look at the pick value, and I'm like, I see defensive tackles the 49ers can get later than 11. Yeah. I see corners they can get later than 11. See a lot of other positions. Wide receiver is a total mess. But there's a lot of other positions that I'm like, there's deeper value. Membu, it's feeling to me like he is the best value at that pick right now. And these things are going to evolve. But where I stand right now is like, I know they like to go for guys that, you know, on the defensive line that can slide in right away. And I wouldn't begrudge them at all if they go a different direction, especially, you know, if Mason Graham is there. I get it. But I'm just saying, if Graham's not there, I think Membu makes so much sense for them. He's going to have the athleticism that they're not going to be able to get. They need a succession plan. And in later rounds, you really don't get that from a tackle. And I know they like to build and have projects, and you can still do that. But I think Membu is like a rare physical talent that's going to work for you at left guard day 1 and become your starting left tackle in the future. And that's a pretty rare thing to find.
Let me ask you a question. We haven't really, as far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't really dove into guards yet, offensive guards.
No.
You have any familiarity with Tyler Booker of Alabama?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Membu a better guard prospect than Tyler Booker?
I would say yeah.
Okay, so what's the question? Like, this is where I'm at. I agree with you.
That said, Booker's a mean guy. It's like you watch Alabama.
I love Booker.
Yeah.
If someone were to come to me and say they want to take Booker at 11, I'd go like, I don't know about that, but like, okay, it's not a good guard class from what I can tell, and okay, that feels fine, right?
I
Little
think
bit of a
Booker's
stretch,
going to be a more natural day one fit, but Membu's going to
but that's
figure it out.
That's what
quickly.
I'm saying, Jake. If we're saying that if we were to just view it as a guard, that we can talk about Booker, who is a guard, and Membu in the exact same conversation. So now you have a top 15 worthy guard who is also a top 15 worthy tackle, unlike Booker, who you can't switch over, even though he is 6'5".
It is a weak interior offensive line.
It's
class,
not a
man.
good one. I mean, Jake Major's coming out here as like your best center, and you're like,
And I was watching him getting wrecked the other day.
It's not great. It's not great. Now, I will say, I think there's some depth to be found. Like late
I think
rounds.
our Boston College guy is interesting.
Boston College might be the best one. Joshua Gray.
He's bad.
You don't
He's
like
bad.
Josh Gray?
Joshua Gray is bad.
Okay.
Let me show you my notes. My superlative. So we have and as we build this thing out,
You'll see.
we're working on the draft guide, but like we have superlatives. My superlative for Joshua Gray is anchorless. And then shades of, which is supposed to be
Shout out the weaker thens.
shades of is supposed to be a comparison to a player. I said shades of Brown.
God damn, man.
So I watched him in the Shrine Bowl. He was getting pushed back by a Nazir Stackhouse. These are just my notes.
I do like Stackhouse.
Right. Fadil Diggs got him.
Love Fadil Diggs. Fadil Diggs is one of my guys.
Yeah. Nash Hutmaker destroyed Joshua Gray.
I'm not so high on Nash Hutmaker, but that's different conversation
I think
for a
Nash
different day.
Hutmaker's like a great undrafted free agent who's going to try really hard.
I mean, Gray Zabel.
Mm-hmm.
Interior. You can play him on the interior, but he's mostly a tackle now, right? Here's the other thing you need to note about Membu. So we don't have any of the 40 times yet, but I will give some shout out to NFLDraftBuzz.com, which is a website that has such repute. I mean, just by the name alone. But they actually, I think, do a really nice job of visualizing some things. They have 40 times. From where, who's to say? But they have put a number next to these names, and we will test them as they go. And by the way, just watching these guys, this all sort of checks out. So like when I say like Kelvin Banks looks like a plotter, they agree because they have him somehow at some point as a 5.3 40-yard dash.
They just went to his house and said run.
I think that they have some pro day or something. Maybe it was in high school.
They're the high school, college pro days where they come and they try out and all that.
Yeah, I have no other. Just says other, so that's fun. But the only guy on the offensive line in their top 12 who runs a sub 540 is Membu, who is also the meanest sumbitch. When he blocks you, you go flying. I mean,
can't you already hear like Rich Eisen watching him run the 40, just losing his mind?
If I'm Membu, I do nothing. I don't go anywhere near a field. I don't go anywhere near the comment. I go full Marvin Harrison Jr. and just say, pick me and find out.
That was brilliant by Marvin Harrison Jr., who's like,
worked out great for him.
Yeah.
Not sure it worked out so great for the Cardinals in that it took about 8 weeks for him to get going, but then he got going and he looks really good. But the point is merely he left the Senior Bowl because he was sick. His stock went up. Like let the market crash itself. Just step away.
He's one of those guys where everyone's just like, look at him.
All you have to do is watch the tape and you just go, fuck yeah. That's his tape might as well be set to like mid-80s mid-80s WWF, like Hulk Hogan, I am a real American, just like, yeah, brother. That's what I think. I just hear Tim Ryan in my head just go, yeah, brother. What a block.
3-point stance.
Just he is fun to watch. He's fun to watch as an offensive lineman. And let me tell you, as somebody who's watching a lot of offensive linemen right now, as you can attest, most of these guys are not fun to watch.
There's a big gap, and It's funny because like initially I'm like, oh, you could maybe trade down for 11 and get him. You're probably gonna have to take him right at 11.
Take him. Don't think twice about it. It's such a win. And I just want to make sure that our flag is planted on this because I think let's be real about this, Jake. We can be very easily, we can get high on the own supply, right?
Oh yeah.
That doesn't make us special, but it does say like, I don't think that we planted the flag hard enough on Pearsall last year. I think we needed a little bit more conviction in what we had going on. And while it was mentioned, we also gave caveats and other things that they should do.
I mean, well, that's I think a reasonable way to approach it.
And we will give the other things. I just want to make sure that we're very clear that as of right now, if the draft falls the way that we think it's going to fall, which is that Mason Graham is not at 11 and blah, 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 the smart thing for them to do, and that is very different than the thing they will do, which is a different conversation.
It's going to be Walter Nolan, probably.
Is a different conversation. What they will do, because that requires reporting, and they don't know what they're doing yet.
No.
But what they should do as of right now, with the information that we have available to us at this moment, is take Membu at 11. Frankly, they should trade down to about 13 or 14 and then take him there, but that's not the world we live in. And this is all hypothetical anyway.
That's right.
So that's where I'm at. The idea that they wouldn't take an offensive lineman in round one, I think that we do need to maybe step away from the priors a little bit here when it comes to the 49ers. Certainly they need to, and I think we all need to, because what have their priors gotten them other than a pile of shit sandwich here?
Is they are extremely particular.
Yep.
Right? And I think when we talked to Chris Furster like last year, and he said, unless you have the ability to like get someone who's like a Trent Williams, and how are we going to get somebody who's better than Trent Williams? And you're never going to find that. But Trent Williams is getting older, and this is a Trent Williams. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Hall of Famer.
Oh, okay. He's getting older.
He is getting older. I don't know if you heard about this.
Unlike
as we
us,
all are,
of course.
As we all are. But the point is like, there's like a specific type of player. There's a specific level of athleticism that's pretty rare to push the needle where you go, okay. And it also depends on the context and who else is available and needs. But I think if you're talking, and I think the way I broke it down is when we were talking about it is like, if you excuse the context of position value and all that.
Right.
If you want to just talk about who's actually like the best player, I think Membu's like 10th. I think he's like 9th or 10th for me in terms of like how convicted I feel in his upside in what I think he is as a player.
And that's any team. If you were to just make a board, this is your big board. This is your top prospects. It's like Hunter 1. I don't have a quarterback in the top 10.
No, neither do I.
I think Genty in there? Not for me, but you can make the argument.
I think in terms of raw talent, I had him in there.
Okay. Obviously Carter.
Yeah, I had it. Carter.
And if only
Hunter.
we had like a podcast where we could possibly break this down. So maybe we just save that for the next time.
I'll give you my list real quick.
Okay.
Carter, Hunter, Graham, Will Johnson, Tyler Warren, Genty, Malachi Starks, Will Campbell, Membu, and then Michael, which I'm maybe gonna switch. I'm feeling more like Green is in terms of raw talent. I really do like Michael though. I think he's raw and he needs some work, but that frame and like just not knowing what he's doing, he's gonna set an edge for you day one. And we got some guys. We got some.
The beauty of this is that it never ends, and that it is deeply enjoyable for those who are sick. And appreciate y'all being sick with us. I need to go to sleep because I'm going to be woken up about 14 times tonight.
That's right.
And I got a toddler who's going to wake up at about 6 a.m. demanding toast and egg. So I'm going to go die.
Is it just one egg, or does she say eggs plural as egg?
It's singular egg. She does one egg. I give her one fried egg. Toast egg. And then
all right.
And then a 10-day-old baby just like, just going cross-eyed. It's great. I'm not going to die at all.
I love that for you. I
Thank
love
you.
that for you.
Thank you. Meanwhile, he's grinding tape. He's doing the Lord's work
While
over
my
here.
dog sleeps on the couch, content that he shattered my ankle.
I want to be very clear about something here, Jake. Nobody is having a harder time with this whole transition. My wife is up at all hours of the night. She's just getting used. I'm getting destroyed with a toddler. No one's having a harder time than Moose the golden retriever right now. He is out of it. He has no idea what he is freaking out, buddy. He ate a whole block of cheese the other night. He's just acting up. He's never counter-surfed in his life, and he's just like, I'm taking that cheese. I don't even know what to do. He's stress eating like his old man.
He's just Schmidt from New Girl eating a block of stress cheese.
That is pretty accurate. So we're doing great over here. By the way, eggs are expensive. You got to do the Costco eggs, and you got to get just saying. These are the things that who would have thought that an avian flu would take eggs out. That's neither here nor there. We
appreciate you, folks.
We're going to get OBS going to where we can do content
stuff.
I can show you. I can show you.
Like
I think you should leave memes. Do you?
You guys love it.
I don't know. Bye. Well.